helping.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pass it on.
It's what you are.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
I better get out of here. Ooh.
If you need a quality pre-owned vehicle, Bell Auto in Jasper specializes in getting you financing you need and can afford. Quality used cars that will fit your budget. That's what our business is all about. Good credit, no credit, bad credit. Bell Auto has a program that's right for you. Let Bell Auto take the headache out of purchasing a pre-owned vehicle by taking advantage of their extended warranties. Located at 640 Noah Drive in Jasper, right next to Bodyplex and Johnny's Pizza. Call us today at 706-253-2112.
Are you searching for the fastest internet in town? Internet that leaves the competition in the dust? Then join up with the good guys at ETC. Don't get shot down by the bad guys and their slow internet speeds. Get the fastest internet in town with a company you can trust and depend on. ETC, 100 years and counting.
Pritchard. The primary election held July 31st resulted in a runoff election to be held next Tuesday, August 21st. We encourage everyone to go vote. Tonight, FetchYourNews.com and ETC3 will be hosting a live debate featuring the candidates in the Appalachian Judicial Circuit District Attorney's race. In the next hour, we'll be speaking with Joe Hendricks and B. Allison Sosby. Tonight's format allows candidates to have index cards. Candidates will be allowed a 1-minute open and a 1-minute close. A timekeeper will alert the candidates with a yellow card when 30 seconds remain and a red card when time expires. The candidates have not been given access to the questions that will be asked during the debate. Candidates, welcome back. A couple weeks ago, we were here, and we're back tonight, and we appreciate you coming back with us. Tonight, Mr. Hendricks, you start with the opening. 1 minute.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Joe Hendricks, and I have been your district attorney for the last 8 years. I am married to Kay Hendricks. We've been married for 19 years. We have one son, John, who's 11, who attends Jasper Middle School. We're members of Mount Hope Community Church, where Kay and I both serve as Sunday school teachers, and we've worked actively in our community for the last 15 years, since 1995 when we moved here. In 2004, I was elected as your district attorney, and I promised to do 3 things: to fight the drug problem, to take on those who abuse victims and children and women, and to take on the DUI issues, and I also promised to improve technology. We've done that. We've had a successful record. We have taken on the drug problem, and as a result, working with your sheriff's office and drug task force, we've brought down we've reduced the methamphetamine problem in this circuit. We've taken on those who have abused women, and we've been strong on DUI cases. And I ask for your vote in the upcoming runoff election.
Ms. Sosby, 1 minute to open.
Hi, my name is Allison Sosby, and I'm a candidate in the runoff in the Republican election for District Attorney for the Appalachian Judicial Circuit. The first thing that I would like to say is thank you to everyone out there who came out to vote on July 31st. And I believe that the votes will show that the people of the Appalachian Judicial Circuit overwhelmingly want a change in the office of the District Attorney. And I would like to be that change for you. I was born, raised, and educated in North Georgia. I attended my undergraduate at the University of Georgia, and I also attended University of Georgia School of Law. One of the things that I think that is so important is we need a change in the office of District Attorney. And cases need to be prosecuted with fairness, with efficiency, and with integrity. And that's what I would like to be able to do for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get started, the July 31st election, let me just go over a couple facts. Ms. Sosby, you received 7,681 votes. Mr. Hendricks, you received 6,833. Harry Doss received about 20% of the vote. The difference between the two of you is about 848 votes in that July 31st election. With that being said, let's start with you, Mr. Hendricks, and I want to address these one at a time. The other night, I heard you say to a group, in 2004, I said I would do three things. I would take on the drug problem, take on crimes against children, take on DUIs, and we have done that. We don't give away DUI cases, no matter who the lawyer is, no matter who the defendant is. So would you talk about the drug problem first, Mr. Hendricks?
Sure. One of the things that we faced, or that I faced when I became district attorney, was the just overwhelming number of methamphetamine cases and methamphetamine-related cases that were coming into our office and that were causing so many problems. And many of them weren't just possession cases. They were acts of violence perpetrated by people that were heavily under the influence of methamphetamine. We were seeing cases take a very long time to get to trial because it was taking 6 months to 9 months to get crime lab reports. And so we worked very hard, first of all, in making sure that folks who were on bond on methamphetamine were actually being tested, and we worked with the judges to do this, were being tested once or twice a week to make sure that they weren't continuing using while they were out on bond awaiting trial. And then we worked to reorganize the drug task force to go after those who were not just using but were making methamphetamine and were selling methamphetamine. And that, along with the community-wide efforts that we worked with our pastors and the people in the community, we worked to help bring down the methamphetamine problem.
Thank you. Ms. Sosby, would you like to respond to that?
If I could, in preparation for this debate, one of the things that I did is pull case dispositions for the last 12 months in all 3 counties. First off, I would like to say in the last 12 months there have been over 1,200 dismissals, null process, or dead dockets of cases pending here. Of those over 1,200 cases, you have over 150 that were drug and alcohol related. And when I say 150 of drug and alcohol related, what I mean is it is not just simply a possession of alcohol underage. I am talking about possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute. I've discussed the Stencil case when we've been here before, where he had 6 cases. All 5 were dismissed with the exception of 1, and he had possession and possession with intent in those in those that were dismissed. You've got the Richard Sanford case that was a 2011 case, which was manufacturing methamphetamine. That was dismissed in November of 2011. You've got the Chastity Huffstetler case, which was 7 counts, and that included possession and possession with intent. I think saying that the drug problem has been addressed is not an accurate statement.
Mr. Hendricks, would you like to respond to that, sir?
Sure. One of the things she doesn't tell you, of course, is when people go through pretrial diversion programs into drug court, the result of literally hundreds of cases that have gone through successful completion of drug court are dismissals. They complete their drug court program and their case is dismissed. So to say, that because, well, we dismiss some cases, that's one group of cases that gets dismissed, but that is a successful completion of that case. The other cases, sometimes a person may have 3 or 4 cases and or 2 or 3 cases, and when they have those cases and we reach a negotiated plea, we agree to dismiss a couple of the cases in exchange for pleas to others. That's an efficient use of plea bargaining in order to reduce the amount of cases pending and to reduce the cost of resolving those cases. So just to take raw numbers like that, throw them out there without telling people what they mean or what's behind them is misleading, and it doesn't tell the truth about the good job that has been done in the drug problem.
30 seconds.
Ironically, for him to cite the fact that drug court is such a program that needs to be utilized is slightly ironic, given the fact that he has had stated opposition to drug court since the time that he has taken office. For example, and if you want to talk about drug court, there were approximately 14 graduates at the last drug court graduation. That does not explain the over 150 cases that are being dismissed. They are bringing cases, they don't have proof to make, they are keeping them on the calendar, and then they're ultimately dismissing them, backlogging the system.
Okay, Mr. Hendricks, before I go any further, Ms. Sosby, I hope you understand that it's not that I'm picking these questions for him to go first, but I want to stay focused on this.
Okay.
Am I wrong in characterizing this as your 2004 campaign promises, or is that what I heard the other night, these 3 items? You said
yes,
you
to deal with the methamphetamine and manufacturing.
Second, take on crimes against children. These, again, this follows up what you promised the people of this district in 2004. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, one of the things we've done now is to take a very tough stance, and we actually are continuing a very tough stance that Mr. Queen took when I worked for him on child molestation cases and sex offense cases. Now, you can bring up any number of cases, and I can talk about, and I'd love to talk about one in particular if we have time, but where the case had to be dismissed or we had to reduce the charge because there was an issue with the case or something like that. But the truth is we've taken a very tough stance on child molestation cases. We have sought and obtained very long prison sentences for those who have abused children and who've committed sex offenses. So those are the things I'm very proud of, and I'm proud of our record that we've accomplished in doing that.
Ms. Sosby, 1 minute, please.
Okay, I think one of the issues is the current district attorney is speaking in generalities as well. The best way that I know to give information to the voters is to be able to give them specific things that they can cite to, that they can go to. When I was going through, and I mean as recently as last week reviewing the case dispositions, I was shocked at the number of cases that had been dismissed in relation to sex offenses against women and children just in this last year. I have an entire sheet of them in front of me, but I've got States versus Watts, 4 counts including rape, incest, aggravated child molestation, was indicted in 2011 but dismissed in 2012. I've got cases where you have Resendez, which is a 2010 case, 4 counts of rape, child molestation, aggravated sexual battery, incest. Nalprost, May of this year of 2012. My question is, when you have these cases and you have such a significant issue and allegations that are being brought by someone, why are those cases being dismissed? Why aren't they being prosecuted?
30 seconds, Mr. Hendricks. I'm going to move on.
Sure, we can cherry pick a few cases and say, okay, there was a rape case and then it was dismissed. Well, when someone makes an allegation of rape and the Sheriff's Department or the GBI brings that charge to the grand jury, and we look at that case and indict it, and then later on there develops an issue, or there develops some contrary evidence, or in some cases where we've had, especially with foreign nationals, where we've had immigrants who've come in and had those cases, the folks move away and we can't get their witnesses anymore. Sometimes we do have trouble with those cases. But that doesn't mean we're not fighting for those cases and we're not doing a good job. You've seen cases where we've seen life sentences for for men who've committed these kind of crimes. We've sought and obtained those tough sentences. And what's interesting, I have the Goebel case. They brought that up. What's interesting is they never talked to the victim about that case. They kept bringing that up as some example of how we didn't handle that case properly. And what's interesting is the victim had something to say and has told us about how she feels about the way Ms. Sosby has used that case in this election.
Because he brought your name into this, and he did run a little over. You can respond. 30 seconds. I do need to move on.
I don't think it's an issue about cherry picking cases. All the cases that I'm cited here tonight, it's all something that's happened within the last 12 months. What I don't understand is even the charge of aggravated child molestation is 25 years to life. That is a very serious sentence to bring against someone and then sit here and say, oh, well, there was developments later on. It's not cherry picking. I mean, there are at least what I would consider 15 major cases in the last 12 months that have been disposed of that way. And one of the things that I foresee that needs to be a change needs to be in the evaluation of cases before they're accused or indicted and people are put in the position they're being put in.
Okay, Mr. Hendricks, let's move to number 3, because the other night you made reference to 3 campaign promises in 2004
Sure.
that you made the voters. Last but not least, on those promises, this is, again, your quote. Take on DUIs. We don't give away DUI cases no matter who the lawyer is, no matter who the defendant is. You took on DUIs. Can you explain that whole thing there to me?
Well, sure. We take the policy that unless there is a reason, unless there is a solid legal reason that we have to reduce a DUI charge, we don't do it. We don't do it because of the lawyer involved. We don't do it because of the family of the people involved. We would only reduce or dismiss a DUI case when there was some problem, evidentiary problem. And anyone who's handled DUIs know that they're very technical cases. And as a result of our approach, Mothers Against Drunk Driving awarded me their Judicial Partnership Enforcement Award for our aggressive DUI enforcement.
Ms. Susby?
Well, it's interesting to hear the current district attorney say that he doesn't hand over DUIs. In reviewing the last 12 months of case dispositions, over 35 DUIs were dismissed or null-prossed by the current district attorney. My question is before they even proceed to court, before you have that accusation or indictment, there should in fact be an evaluation of the case to see if those quote-unquote fatal flaws exist. And that is not what is happening now. There is no evaluation that exists, and that is part of what is creating the backlog that we are currently dealing with.
Okay, we have to go to break now, and when we get back, we will talk about backlog, and we'll continue our discussion on DUIs. So we're going to go to break now, and if you've just joined us here, we're with Joe Hendricks and B. Allison Sosby, Appalachian Judicial District Attorney candidates. We're going to go to break, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and four-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
we all love Subway.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet, that's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
We're back with District Attorney Joe Hendricks and B. Allison Sosby, and this is the District Attorney debate for the Appalachian Judicial District. When we left, we were talking about DUIs, and we were going over Mr. Hendricks' 2004 campaign promises. Mr. Hendricks, before we go any further, you said that you don't give away DUIs no matter who the attorney is or the defendant is, and you don't give them away. Any reference to why you say it that way?
Well, sure. We don't care who the lawyer is when we have to handle their case, and we certainly don't engage in plea bargaining with folks we have conflicts of interest in. And one of the things I pointed out in my campaign is that Ms. Sosby dead docketed a DUI case where Mr. Weaver was the defense lawyer while she listed Mr. Weaver on her letterhead, and that's just wrong. There's a formal advisory opinion by the state bar that says you can't be on two sides of the same case if you're of counsel, and that's exactly what happened in that case. The police officer was never contacted, was never subpoenaed, never brought to court to testify, and was surprised to find out when it happened that the case had been dismissed and was unhappy about it. And he, in fact, posted that on your website. So that concerns me, and it concerns me, that relationship and how those cases will be handled concern me very much, and it should be a concern to folks who are concerned about safety on the highways and the enforcement of our DUI laws.
Ms. Sosby, you want to address that?
If I could briefly, and I think that what the current district attorney has said is a complete misstatement of what that brochure actually was to begin with. He in fact accused me of a crime. He accused me of fixing a DUI ticket. And frankly, as I would like to say, Mr. Hendricks, as the chief law enforcement officer of this circuit, I find it shocking to believe that you would have known that I would have committed a crime, and yet you never charged me with one, and you waited until a last-minute mailing to send it out. In fact, if anybody wants to know the facts about how that case was handled, Larry Callahan can be contacted. He is the chief of police with East LJ, and frankly, I believe that Mr. Hendricks' rendition of what he is stating the facts are in that case, including the officer being present, available to testify, or not being contacted, can be refuted by Larry Callahan, because I think the exact allegations that Mr. Hendricks has made in terms of that mailing is not only calling me a liar, it's calling Larry Callahan a liar and accusing the judge in that city, Ron Armstrong, Larry Callahan, myself, and the city of fixing a ticket.
Okay, let's stay with that for a minute. Mr. Hendricks, is that the DUI you're referring to?
That's the DUI I'm referring to. No, I didn't accuse her of a crime. She had the authority as the prosecutor to reduce the charge, but she had an ethical duty under the canons of ethics for the lawyers have with Mr. Weaver's listed on her letterhead not to be on the other side of the case. And I didn't call anybody a liar. Mr. Callahan didn't know that Ms. Sosby and Mr. Weaver were part of the same affiliated lawyers, and the bottom line is what he knew or didn't know, or what he approved of or didn't approve of, is irrelevant. She had an ethical duty not to be prosecuting a case. She should have recused herself from that case and not handled the case that Mr. Weaver was representing the defendant when she had him listed on her letterhead as being of counsel.
Okay, let me before we go any further, because we could stay with this a minute, but as both of you know, and I don't know if you both do know this, I have spoken length with Judge Armstrong, and I have spoken length with Chief of Police Larry Callahan on this, and I did pull an open records, and I do have all of that. So just so you know. So would you like to go any further with that?
I would. It's a matter of fact, the issue that I have in the way that this entire thing has been handled is, yes, he did accuse me of a crime. Yes, he did accuse me of ethical violations. But what the current district attorney did in this situation is what has been happening in cases that are being brought before the grand jury all the time. There's a significant lack of investigation in terms of the facts as they exist. And had he done his due diligence and had he done what he was supposed to do, he would find out that I, in fact, had not done what he accused me of doing. The chief of police and the judge were the ones that worked that that arrangement out when I was there that day. I was sitting in as the solicitor pro tem. I was visiting. I did not have the calendar in advance. As a matter of fact, Amanda Mercier was the solicitor at that time. The issue that I have with this mailer and his reference to it is we're chasing another rabbit down a hole in relation to what the actual issues are and should be in terms of running for district attorney, which is the backlog on the cases and the failure for cases to be properly reviewed before they're accused or indicted.
Okay, I don't want to stay with that too long, but we are discussing something, and when something is as serious as fix a DUI, Mr. Hendricks, just isn't it against the law to fix something?
Well,
but and I will say your flyer, your
under some case, basically it was not a criminal violation. It was an ethical violation under the state bar rules, and there's a formal advisory opinion. I furnished that to you.
Yes, you did.
It says that you can't be of counsel and handle two sides of the same case, and that's exactly what she did. It's her signature on the dead docket, and she's the one that approved it.
Okay, so as Mr. Callahan saying that he wrote the order and Judge Armstrong saying he fixed the order, and them saying to me that night nothing was fixed in that courtroom.
Chiefs of police officers don't write orders. Prosecutors and judges do.
Okay, all right. In that mailer that was brought up that I didn't bring up, you called her Democrat, Allison Sosebee. Why in the last several times that you've mentioned Ms. Sosebee do you refer to her as a Democrat?
Because in Georgia we don't have party registration. You don't go to the register to vote and register as a Republican or register as a Democrat. It is your conduct. It is what you do that makes you a Republican or a Democrat. Giving money to Democratic candidates, not voting in Republican primaries, are the kind of things that make you a Democrat. And if you're going to give money to Roy Barnes, who ran against Nathan Deal, Roy Barnes, who was one of the most cronyist governors we've had ever, if that's the kind of governor you're going to support, that makes you a Democrat. And she gave to other Democrats. So the fact that she's supporting a Democratic governor against Nathan Deal from this area, and then to turn around and say, well, I support Nathan Deal, is just wrong. Her history shows she's a liberal Democrat. That's what she is. What she's done makes her a Democrat.
And she's contributed to a Democrat?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to answer that?
I would, and as I explained before, when this issue was brought up, I gave $200 to a fellow trial attorney who was a former prosecutor who had prosecuted death penalty cases. Okay. That in and of itself does not make me a Democrat. Long before Mr. Hendricks came to this area, my family has been Republicans. I have been a Republican since I registered to vote. And the simple fact of the matter is my first public service job was with then Senator, current Speaker of the House, David Ralston, where I worked with him in the Senate working on conservative legislation. So my history in and of itself shows that I am a Republican. A $200 contribution, I would not believe, will constitute someone being a liberal Democrat.
Okay, Mr. Hendricks, in our last debate, we went over mailers, and in a mailer that we talked about that night, you have in that mailer, and I don't want to quote, I don't have it with me, but you call her a liberal Democrat, and you say she made a contribution to a Democrat, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then a couple days after the debate, I personally got a mailer that said, Democrat Allison Sosebee fixed the DUI, correct? I mean, I have the mailer if you, okay. So that being said, after the last debate, I went and I just started researching everything as far as anybody. In a mailer you said Ms. Sosebee was a liberal Democrat because she made a campaign contribution to a Democrat. In a follow-up mailer you said Democrat Allison Sosebee fixed the DUI. In a publication right after the election the other day, when you were asked for a comment, this is a quote in the publication. In a publication after the election, it reads, Mr. Hendricks also said he is a conservative Republican and has never, this is in quotes, not me, never given money to a Democrat. Sir, have you ever given money to a Democrat candidate?
No.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you did it because you do show up a contribution.
For whom?
Have you ever contributed $200 to Cherokee County Superior Court Judge Frank C. Mills?
I have given money to Judge Mills, but he is a nonpartisan.
He's a Democrat.
He's nonpartisan.
Okay, he told me today he's a Democrat. He was the district attorney.
I didn't know he's a Democrat.
But you said you never did.
He is a nonpartisan judge.
Sir, he called me today because I went on the Secretary of State and I went through her and your contributions.
I have never given money to anybody running as a Democrat. Period.
But that's not the comment you gave to a publication or you're given before. So let me just, in fairness, let me just explain to you that he called me today and he said he ran for district attorney. He was district attorney of the Blue Ridge, Appalachian Blue Ridge region twice. He was a Democrat. This is what he said to me on a telephone call. He was a Democrat, and the first time he ran for Superior Court judge, the state of Georgia did not require you to be nonpartisan. He ran for Superior Court as a Democrat, and if he ran today, he would be a Democrat.
Well,
so that's all I'm saying.
I can tell you this, Brian.
I went through and I researched
can tell you
everybody.
This, Brian. I would never and have never given to anybody money to anybody when I knew or had any reason to believe their name had a D by it.
Okay.
Period.
All right. That's a fairness.
Now,
I just did the research.
If Judge Mills was a Democrat back in the 70s when he ran for office, I certainly wasn't aware of it. It wouldn't have crossed my mind. I've given money to judicial candidates in nonpartisan races, but I've never given money to anybody running as a Democrat, period, and I wouldn't support any Democrat, period.
All right, he told me today he's still a Democrat, and that's all I'm saying. He
hadn't told me that.
Okay, but that's all I'm saying, and you said a contribution is basically what made her a Democrat. So, I mean, do you still feel the contribution she made her a Democrat? I mean, I don't know. And I want to get off this.
There's a big difference between running in a nonpartisan race as a judge and running against Nathan Deal, a Republican. And I certainly didn't give any money to anybody running as a Democrat, period.
Okay, I'll accept that if you'll tell me you did give him $200 or you remember.
I've given nonpartisan judges money, and I'm sure I've given Judge Mills and I've given Judge Harris money.
Yeah, because I had it for
But I didn't give, I can certainly tell you this, I haven't given Roy Barnes or any other President Obama or any other Democrat money, and certainly don't give money to Democrats running partisan races. And I didn't, when I gave money to Judge Mills, I certainly didn't know he's a Democrat. He wasn't running as a Democrat. He didn't call me and say he's running as a Democrat.
Okay. In all due respect, he's very proud to be a Democrat. I spoke to him today. But I did do, for both of you and for everybody watching, when we left that night, I went to the Secretary of State and I researched all of you, including Mr. Dawson, in case that was the different way. So we've got to go to break, and when we get back, let's move the backlog, okay? Let's talk about backlog and actually running the Office of District Attorney, all right? When we come back, we'll discuss the backlog in the District Attorney, if there is one, and how to move cases forward and which candidate will be able to do that the best. So stay tuned, come back with us.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and four-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
we all love Subway.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ella J's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Okay, we're back with Joe Hendricks and B. Allison Sosby, and we're going to continue our discussion. And Ms. Hendricks, Ms. Sosby, this question is for you. You continually bring up a backlog, and you stated the other night at a debate that you gave a number of 3,619 cases. Let me ask you a question. You said at the recent meeting, every case that is existing on the docket right now, that is an open case, needs to be addressed. As district attorney, wouldn't that be a Herculean effort to try to address that many cases? How would you do that?
I think it's going to be very task-oriented and time-consuming in order to address that. But one of the things that I have a big concern about is, in the last debate, the current district attorney had stated how the backlog had decreased from 2010 to 2011. The 3,619 case number came from where he is saying that that's what the cases have been reduced to. Now, as I stated previously, in the last 12 months, over 1,200 cases have been dismissed. But in reviewing the calendars, one of the biggest concerns that I had is, you can look, there was one case, it was the State versus Bill Hester. It is a 1999 case of 2 counts of sexual battery, and it was null-prossed in September of 2011. A 1999 case. I do not understand why cases are staying on the calendar that long. You've got another case of State versus David Price. It's another sexual battery case. It was null-prossed. It's a 1999 case. Why is it taking 12 years in order to address these things? They need to be brought to the forefront and addressed now.
Mr. Hendricks?
Well, first of all, the 3,600 number she mentioned, she misrepresented and said there were 3,600 pending trial. Well, that's just not true. There were about 1,654, only about half that number. And the fact is that most of that 3,600 number, or at least half of it, are cases which are either have been dead docketed, or in pretrial diversion, or in bench warrants, or on the front end of the process, which where they're coming into the system, where they've just been opened, they're coming in for grand jury and being reviewed for decisions about charging. We do review these cases. The fact is, it is a monumental task. It's about 1,700 new cases a year. We've already closed about 1,200 cases this year so far, and to throw out, but basically throwing out these numbers without telling you what they mean, which is that we're opening about 1,600 to 1,700 cases a year, but we're closing about 1,800 or 1,900 cases a year. So we're closing more than we're opening. We're moving the backlog down, and we have, in fact, in Gilmer County, there were, last month there was less than 600 cases that were pending on the trial calendar. In Fannin County, there were less than 300 cases pending on the trial calendar, and in Pickens County, there were less than 800. But the fact is, we're moving those cases. Now, some cases, like a 99 case, and I'm not familiar with that specific case. Ms. Sosby didn't share a little list with me before we got here. But the fact is, if you could review that, many of those cases, sometimes you have people who are in prison on other offenses, and they still have cases pending, and we don't just dismiss them. Sometimes we see what happens when they get out of prison. Sometimes we have. Sometimes the defendants are mentally incompetent and they can't be tried. So again, you can cherry pick a case here and there and find, well, hey, you've got this case or that case. But the bottom line is, the backlog has come down. It's come down tremendously. We've reduced over the last 2 to 3 years. We've brought it down by over 1,000 cases. So we are working to review those cases, to bring them down. and progress is being made on the backlog.
Would you like to respond, Ms. Sosby?
I would, because once again, the current district attorney is speaking in complete generalities. It's what he did before when he stated the pending caseload was 3,619 cases. You know, he is citing examples in terms of, well, they could have been in prison or they could be mentally incompetent. He's not citing to any examples in cases where that could have occurred. I mean, there's another case I was sitting here looking at that's been indicted since he has been in office. It's a 2004 case, Minwahi, 8 counts of aggravated sexual battery. That is an enormous charge to have pending this entire time to not have been addressed. So yes, when I say that every case needs to be evaluated and it needs to be determined whether or not there is sufficient evidence to proceed to trial, that is what I mean. Each case needs to be evaluated and there needs to be that connection with law enforcement. A liaison needs to be developed within the district attorney's office to work with law enforcement in order to ensure that there is a smooth flow of the transition of the case and to ascertain whether the evidence is there to begin with and not on the back end.
Mr. Hendricks?
Well, again, you know, I could pull up a case management system and I can tell you exactly why that case has been delayed or if there were delays. Or if she's just pulled this out of thin air like she did the $25,000 test for DNA, turkey DNA, where she told you that something had cost $25,000 when in fact it cost $1,200. So you have to consider the source. But what I will say is that we have seen an accelerated movement in cases over the last few years. We have moved cases much quicker. You can find isolated cases where there are problems, where the witnesses have become unavailable, where the defendant has been sent to prison, or maybe where the defendant's incompetent. And we've had some cases where the lawyers, most notably Ms. Sosby's former partner or associate or whatever of counsel, and some other lawyers have delayed cases for years by pulling leaves of absence. In fact, we had in the last trial week, we had 3 lawyers with leaves of absences during trial week, and you know we had to continue a number of cases.
Time's up, Mr. Hendricks. And I tell you what, since you have brought up a couple times the defense attorney, you said the other night that defense attorneys were, what you said, part of the problem with the backlog. In fact, you said if elected, you would make this, I would call it a new campaign promise, that you would do something and you would take it on now. So who is the defense attorneys? What's the backlog? You specifically said defense attorneys.
The problem is we've got a few defense lawyers who've used leave of absences to continue cases. In fact, and one of the things I think it needs to be done is just to make sure that it's more publicly known, that it's known why these cases are being continued, that folks know. Instead of trying to resolve it quietly and diplomatically, I think we may have to address it more publicly so that folks know why these cases are being continued and so that there's more public pressure on the system to get cases moved through.
Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, in 2 parts I would like to respond to that. Number 1 is the question of why now, which Mr. Hendricks did not answer. He says that he's had 8 years in office, and my question is why now is he addressing this, and is he making a campaign issue of it? One interesting thing about leaves of absences, if I'm an attorney of record, I don't just get to file a leave of absence and say I'm not going to show up in court. I file a leave of absence for the case 30 days in advance, and the other side has 10 days to respond once they receive that leave of absence. And all of the leaves of absences that the district attorney is claiming that is causing the delays in this case, I would ask anyone to go look and see how many objections have been filed to those leaves of absences, because they don't file them. There was a recent case where there was a victim that was claiming she hadn't received justice because the current Speaker of the House was delaying the case because he was a defense attorney. And Mr. Hendricks went on camera and said, well, it is a shame because justice in the trial has been delayed all of this time, and blames David Ralston for delaying the case because of legislative leave. In not one situation was there ever an objection filed by the district attorney in terms of those leaves of absences. And that is the question, that is the problem that I have, is it is always someone else's fault and never his own.
All right.
That's not true, because we did file an objection. It was overruled, and the fact is, some of these lawyers, like the husband of the chief judge, the speaker of the House, we can't find judges willing to buck the trend. We can't find judges willing to deal with that issue. And I don't think with Ms. Sosby, I don't think you could ever count on any, her as a prosecutor ever fighting these leaves of absences.
All right, let me ask you a question saying that. You said defense attorney, you said chief judge and wife. Did you not say that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you said it the other night.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I was at the Republican debate the other night, and you made reference to George Weaver, his wife, and that, and I don't want to say quote, but you said if elected, elected, you would take that on.
What I said is that we're not finding that judges want to get involved in that kind of controversy, and I think we're going to have to make it more of an issue.
I guess I want to follow up something I heard her say, Mr. Hendricks. When you have been district attorney for 8 years, correct? Going on 8 years.
Yes.
The whole time you've been district attorney, Brenda Weaver has been the chief judge, correct?
Yes.
George Weaver has been a defense attorney for 8 years since you've been. Okay, and this is a new campaign promise. So I guess I maybe am asking too, why instead of 04, you ran unopposed last time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you ran unopposed, but why didn't you just go ahead and take that on 3 years ago, 4 years ago? So
well, we have thought that it would be better to work in a more diplomatic way, but it is obviously not working, and I think we're going to have to it's not working in some of those instances, and with those instances where we have a proven track record where it's not working, we're going to have to try a different tack, and I think that's what's needed.
So this wasn't quite the problem 5 years, 6 years, 3 years ago, and I don't mean to keep going with that.
It has been a perennial problem that we have been working on and been hoping for progress, and in some periods of time you would see some progress, and then some periods of time you don't.
Okay, if elected, it's going to get worse with you? What am I hearing?
If elected, it's going to get better. You know, the whole entire issue with this campaign is cases need to be handled with fairness, efficiency, and integrity to get them moving. The simple fact of the matter is the current district attorney is not doing his job. The job of the defense attorney is to create time on their side, because that is the best defense oftentimes a criminal defense attorney has. The objection to the leaves of absences aren't being filed. It's not being pushed by the district attorney's office the way that it should be. And once again, the problem that he is saying exists is everyone else's fault except for his own. The simple fact of the matter is, if you want to talk about the 3 judges in this circuit, all 3 were up for re-election this time. Judge Bradley was the only one that ran with opposition, and he won in his election. Judge Weaver and Judge Mercier both ran unopposed. And what I find interesting is that if George Weaver and Brenda Weaver are such the problems that Mr. Hendricks continually complains that they are, not just tonight, but in several other forums that we've been in, my question is why didn't he run for judge in order to rectify that situation? The simple fact of the matter is this did not come up as an issue until this election, and he was looking for a platform to run on.
Okay, go ahead. We got to go to a break, but go ahead, Mr. Hendricks. Respond.
Well, I think what she's admitted is that Mr. Weaver and her buddies in the defense bar have been working to manufacture delay, and they have done that, and they've and rather than, I have tried to work with them and work with the defense bar to try to resolve those issues, but apparently the quiet approach hasn't working, and I think we're going to have to bring a more public, a more confrontational approach to it, and that's what I'm going to plan to do in my 3rd term. And I don't think you can count on Ms. Sosby taking on Mr. Weaver on those issues, because she certainly didn't take him on in any of the previous cases she's handled as a prosecutor.
Okay, we have to go to break, and when we come back, we will be in our last and 4th and final segment here tonight with District Attorney candidates B. Allison Sosby and Joe Hendricks. So we'll return. Stay with us.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and 4-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
For a delicious, fresh meal anytime, visit your local Subway today. Subway offers daily specials, $5 footlongs, and now featuring the Angus beef melts, where each sandwich is created by you with our own fresh baked bread and a huge variety of veggies and cheese. Real food, great food, anytime, your local Subway.
Hi, I'm Ed Singleton. I own 15 Subway stores in Georgia and North Carolina since 1991. I'd like to ask everyone to exercise your right to vote.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Okay, when we left a minute ago, we were talking with Mr. Hendricks concerning defense attorney delays and continuances. That seems to be something that some people say is part of the backlog. You said the other night you would take that on. Stress how you would take that on.
I think first of all we need to be bringing the media into the courtroom a whole lot more to see what actually happens, so they understand what's happening in the courtroom, what's happening to the cases. Watch these counter calls, see what happens when the delays, see who's asking for the continuances, because in the trial we just had in Fannin County, we had half the cases were continued at the request of defense lawyers. So I think by having folks in here, watching what goes on, and that being accurately reported to the people in the community, they'll know what's really going on in the court system.
Ms. Osby, respond.
One of the things that I've asked in this entire campaign is for people to be an informed voter. One of the biggest issues is most people don't know who the district attorney is or what those roles are unless you've been a defendant, a victim, been on the grand jury or the trial jury. And what I have asked for people to do is go talk to the people who work within the office of district attorney and find out what their opinion is of the operation of the current district attorney's office. You know, it's interesting that Mr. Hendricks said, well, 50% of the continuances in Fannin were at the request of the defense attorney. I was curious if the other 50% were at the request of the state. I would be curious as to find out how many objections were filed to leaves of absences. As recently as last week, they had Pickens County ready to come in and try cases. And the district attorney themselves, the assistant DA, said, we're not ready to try the oldest cases on the trial calendar. Let us try 2012. And you had cases going back to 2006.
Well, I want to respond to that.
Okay.
First of all,
Quickly,
I did not
please.
say, she misstated what I said. What I said was that 50% of the cases were continued at the request of the defense attorneys, not that they requested half the continuances. And in what she mentioned in Pickens County, the only reason that case couldn't be tried is because the crime lab witness was unavailable. Now, the rest of the case, we had 3 defense lawyers in Jasper have leave of absences on that day, including Mr. Weaver. So, who has the bulk of the cases he doesn't want to work with us on. So the bottom line is, she's again misstating the facts and trying to mislead folks.
Let's go another direction so we can get some more stuff in for the voters. Mr. Hendricks, should the district attorney's office know in advance of trial week what cases will be worked out and what cases should go to trial? Should that be something you should know in advance?
Well, you don't know what's going to be worked out in advance because oftentimes the defendants don't want to enter pleas until the last minute. So, that's kind of that question, I think, misunderstands how the process works and what the practices are. The fact is we have plea offers in every case, and it's often not until the defendants know that the jurors are coming in that they begin to enter pleas. And that's what happens. Oftentimes on Monday morning, the defendants begin to plead guilty.
Okay, Ms. Sosby.
I do think that the district attorney's office needs to have an idea of the set cases that are going to be tried, and I'm not going to dispute that cases get moved oftentimes quicker when a jury trial week's coming up. But the simple fact of the matter is the district attorney's office has a staff of 18, the public defender's office has a staff of 13, and they are handling, the public defender's office is the largest basically providing public defender services or defense services in this circuit. When you have 28 people on staff, you have 9 ADAs plus 1 district attorney. People should be ready to try cases.
Time's up. Ms. Sosby, that being said, the district attorney is also a manager. You have 3 full offices, 1 in Fannin County, 1 in Pickens County, and 1 in Gilmer County. You have assistant district attorneys, you have complete staffs, you have investigators. At this time, you're a defense attorney. Are you prepared to be not just the district attorney, the manager of the Appalachian Judicial District, and how would you do that? And I know that's a lot in a minute.
Well, yes, I'm ready for it. You know, one of the things that's been interesting to me in this campaign is the current district attorney said, well, I'm the only one that has the experience managing a staff. I'm the only one that has experience working with investigators. Well, when he was elected 7.5 years ago, he did not have those experiences either. I have ran my own business. I am fully capable of coming in managing the court system, and I do agree that it is in a large degree a managerial position, but one of the biggest things that needs to be done is time needs to be divided equally between the counties, and that is not happening now. There are counties that are not getting any services from the district attorney, and what I envision needs to happen is time needs to be divided equally. The district attorney needs to make an appearance in court and needs to be actively involved in the prosecution of certain cases, but also to provide the oversight for the assistant DAs, and also to ensure that there's a liaison that exists within the district attorney's office to work with law enforcement to coordinate those agencies with the DA, and that is not happening.
Time's
now.
up. Mr. Hendricks?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
The question is, well, it actually was to her. She is currently a defense attorney, and would she be prepared to? So I guess let's turn the question this way to you. Well, you can answer it, but let's turn the question. Do you feel the district attorney's office also has to be, the district attorney also has to be a manager?
Oh,
and would you
it's a
explain
tremendous management responsibility, because you have to supervise attorneys on a wide range of experience, all the way from folks like my chief assistant Cliff Stitcher, who's the assistant district attorney of the year for the state of Georgia, who's probably the most experienced district attorney in the state, all the way to somebody who's just graduated from law school. And so the key is to making sure you have good people in all those positions, making sure that they're appropriately staffed, making sure they're appropriately handling things. And let me tell you, what I've heard from Ms. Sosby is just an insult to those professionals who've worked very hard to fight for the people in this community. We have good staff, we have good prosecutors. In fact, let me read you something a victim wrote in the Joey Goebel case that Ms. Sosby kept beating me up with because we reduced a rape case. She says, "You also deserve to know," this is a letter from the victim, "what a thorough job the district attorney's office did in getting this case ready for trial. The assistant district attorney handling the case and the victim advocate were always available to answer my questions. The ADA explained the entire process to me, and he spent approximately 15 hours together getting ready for trial. He and the victim advocate were compassionate and understanding." And this is what she says, interestingly, about Ms. Sosby. "In the end, I did not want the case continued to a time when more jurors would be available. I wanted the nightmare to end. However, thanks to Ms. Sosby, the nightmare has continued." And then it's referring to bringing that case up again and again and again in these forums. We're doing a good job, despite what she says, despite what her partner before he got defeated in the last election said, Mr. Doss, when they would team up here. The bottom line is, we're doing a good job. Our victims are telling us a good job. I know she can cherry pick somebody or find somebody that's disgruntled, but the truth is we are doing a good job. We're fighting for the people in this community, and until this election, you didn't hear any of this stuff.
I don't want to cut off your closing statement, and I have been told 4 minutes, and you did go over, but I will not leave tonight with there's a major segment of the population in this district that's very concerned about alternative sentencing programs. Drug court, we can't give it justice, but drug court, veterans court, and mental health court, and that's been a big topic, and there's a big group of voters that are interested in that. 15, 20 seconds, do you support those, and will you be a supporter of those as district attorney?
I wholeheartedly support the alternative sentencing programs. You do have the drug court, the mental health court, and we could have a veterans court program if a prosecutor had been appointed. One of the things that the district attorney has tried to say is he has appointed a prosecutor for that. That, in fact, has not occurred, and there's an email evidencing the fact that he wasn't even going to send an assistant DA to training. But I think that those programs are important, and I think that program, Veterans Court, most certainly needs to be implemented in this circuit.
Keep it short, Mr. Hendricks. I don't want to.
We moved a lot of personnel to get that assistant DA to training. You can see his picture on Pickens, it was whatever the website I gave last week, pickensgacourts.org. The truth of the matter is, I have staff at the staffing meetings and our alternative sentencing programs. We've been supportive of those. I serve on the Highland Rivers Community Service Board and have voted as a member of that board to provide additional mental health services to both our veterans, to the court that will serve as our veterans court, and to the mental health court. She's basically operating under the theory that if you tell a lie often enough, people will believe it. And that's exactly what she's done with this issue.
Ms. Sosby, 1 minute to close, please.
One thing that I find very interesting is the last statement that the current district attorney has made. What I would ask you to do is look at the facts in the case, look at the mailers, and look at the representations that have been made. There have been such a distortion of facts. Would you trust him to present cases to the grand jury in the misrepresentations and distortions that can be verified through other people? As a district attorney for you, I want to make a change. In order for a change to occur, you have to recognize that a problem exists. And right now, the current district attorney fails to recognize that any problem exists within this circuit. I would like to thank everyone for their vote and their support on July the 31st, and I ask for your vote and your support in the upcoming runoff on August the 21st. All we need to do is go to the polls one more time for a change. And I will close with this quote. It is a statement from Hugh Stone. It was a case that Hugh Stone handled. It's an editorial that was in the News Observer on August the 10th. It says, "Justice is supposed to be blind in the foundation that the American court system was built on. Our district attorney got his conviction in a case, but at what price? Justice obviously is not blind." I ask for your support in making this change. Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks, 1 minute, please.
In this campaign, rather than dealing with the real issues facing this circuit, my opponent has bombarded you with baseless attacks against me and repeated lies that have been told with the idea that if you repeat them often enough, people will believe them. The truth of the matter is, I did what I promised when I ran for district attorney. I have fought hard against the drug problem. As a result, we have reduced use of methamphetamine. We have reduced the meth labs that plagued our circuit, and we have reorganized our drug task force. We have fought for women and children in those sex offense cases. We have tamed life sentences, sent people to prison for life plus hundreds of years when they've violated the rights of women and children. We have worked to build improved technology, including the Judicial Exchange Technology Project and our case management system. And Mothers Against Drunk Driving didn't award me the Judicial Partnership Award for aggressive prosecution of DUIs because we were giving DUIs away. I'm the only candidate in this race with the for prosecuted a felony case, the only candidate to have ever been lead attorney in a jury trial, in a criminal jury trial. I'm the only candidate in this race that's ever supervised other lawyers, the only candidate in this race that's ever handled a murder case, and the only candidate in this race with any death penalty experience. That's going to be required of your next district attorney, and I ask for your vote on the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks and Ms. Sosby, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Our goal always at FetcherNews.com is to get the most information for the voters. And again, thank you, and we wish you well. Don't go away. We'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll have the 9th Congressional District candidates, Martha Zoller and Doug Collins, with us for the next hour. And again, go vote next Tuesday, August 21st. You know what I say, don't complain, go vote, okay? Stay tuned. Come back with us for our next hour with 9th Congressional District candidates.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and four-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
We all love Subway!
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and four-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
We all love Subway!
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Good evening. Brian Pritchard. The primary election held July 31st resulted in a runoff election to be held next Tuesday, August 21st. We encourage everyone to go vote. Tonight, FetcherNews.com and ETC3 will be hosting a live debate featuring candidates in the 9th District congressional race. In the next hour, we'll be speaking with Martha Zoller and Doug Collins. Tonight's format will allow candidates to have index cards. Candidates will be allowed 1 minute to open and 1 minute to close. A timekeeper will alert the candidates with a yellow card when 30 seconds remains and a red card when time expires. The candidates have not been given access to the questions that will be asked during the debate. Candidates, thank you for being here tonight. And as always, FetcherNews.com, our #1 goal is to get the most information for the voters. And next Tuesday, they will be going back to the polls and for the 9th Congressional District. So, Mr. Collins, 1 minute to open, please.
Great. Well, it's great to be here tonight, Brian. Thanks for having us. It's good to be back up in Gilmer County and the Pickens, Gilmer, and Fannin area was good to us on July 31st, and we're excited about that. As we go back into this runoff election, we're just encouraging our voters to come back out and to be a part of what we consider is going to be our very new start for the 9th District, and that's going to be a start with me being elected as Congressman on the 21st of August. Tonight we're going to have a good time answering questions, but there's a lot of differences between us. There's a consistent conservative in this race, and that's me. And there's also someone who had a lot of views before they were in running for office while they were on the radio. And we're going to talk about those differences tonight. What you can find from me is I'm a native of North Georgia, went to North Georgia College, I served as a pastor, small business owner, also served in the military at Dobbins Air Force Base as a wing chaplain, and served in Iraq in 2008. Tonight, I ask for your vote, I ask for your attention as we answer these questions because I look forward to having a good time tonight, letting you know who this consistent conservative in this race is.
Ms. Zoller, 1 minute, please.
I'm Martha Zoller, and I've been your conservative voice in Northeast Georgia for more than 16 years. I am so happy to be here and to be running for Congress because Washington is broken and the American dream is under siege. I am happy to have a plan called the Map for Prosperity, where we put together bold reform, citizen engagement, and accountability, which is the most important part of this. We're going to be talking about all of those issues tonight. I've been a big business person, I've been a small business person, I've also raised a family, and I've built a media career. I'm happy to have the endorsement of Sarah Palin, Newt Gingrich, Herman Cain, and Rick Santorum, but also the endorsement of grassroots people all around this district. That was the first place that I went. We're going to be talking about the differences tonight because it is time to draw those contrasts. I look forward to your vote on August 21st. I hope you'll go out and vote now, also for early voting, and take a friend to the polls with you too. Please go to marthaforcongress.com and we'll get ready for the debate.
You know, we will have 1 minute to answer questions and to rebut, but to open up, I'd like to only take 30 seconds on this. With the most recent news here that took place this past Saturday, I want to give both of you 30 seconds to make a comment concerning Mitt Romney's running mate, Paul Ryan, and what you think of that. 30 seconds.
Oh, I think it was a bold choice. Paul Ryan is a guy that knows the budget numbers. He has been, you know, on top of this, he has a plan, which I think is extremely important, that's out there, and I think he's going to add to the ticket because of his age also. He's 42 years old. He's a middle-class family person. He's going to really add to the ticket. So I think the Romney-Ryan ticket is going to be a real winner.
30 seconds, Doug.
I agree. I think it was a great choice. I think it draws especially for this administration, it draws a great distinction in really two visions for America. And that is a vision that the current administration has when they want to continue to grow government, grow big, and be more invasive in all of our lives. And really the stark contrast between Ryan and Romney, I think, is just going to be evident in the fall. And I'm looking forward to that campaign. I'm looking forward to President Obama going down in November. I'm looking forward to President Romney and Vice President Ryan.
Well, Mr. Collins, let's start with you on that. Considering that Paul Ryan, the #1 thing that the Democrats started Tuesday, Saturday, 5 minutes after the announcement, was the Medicare. So that is an entitlement that both of you have talked about. But give me, the word bold came up. Give me your bold description of what we got to do with Medicare and what you would do with Medicare.
Well, I think the reason that the Democrats began attacking Paul Ryan as quickly as it came out Saturday is they don't want everybody to realize they cut $700 billion out of Medicare. And I think that's something that people don't want to say because they want to perceive this and the Obamacare is solving all the issues and all the problems that are going along with that. What we've got to have in Medicare, whether it is looking at a age issue where you look at when we begin our drawing our funds on Medicare, but also what we've got to look at is what Paul Ryan has talked about, is looking at that premium support, looking at ways that we can get people back into the free market. When we look at getting people in the free market, that's when America works best. And for Medicare and for the whole Obamacare situation, which is a disaster to start with, this is an area where we've got to start. And it's no wonder they started there because it's the area they don't want to touch.
Ms. Zoller, what is the bold move on Medicare?
Well, I've helped to run my husband's medical practice for more than 20 years, so I've seen what's happened with health care over the years, everywhere from making appointments to making the tough decisions and talking to insurance companies. So I know a little bit about this issue. The most important thing I want to tell you about what's going to happen with the Romney-Ryan Medicare plan is that nothing is going to happen to people 55 and older. You know, the grandma over the cliff is an unfair characterization. There's no doubt about that. So if you're 55 and over, your benefits aren't going to change. If you're under 55, you're going to have the opportunity for something called premium support, which is going to allow people to be able to make some choices. It will cost about $100 more a month, but it will allow people to make some choices. And I think what that's going to do is allow people that are under 55 to make these choices and to plan for the future. So number one, if you're 55 and older, Medicare's not going to change for you. But then after that, you're going to have some options.
Okay, let's talk about, you brought up endorsements and I don't want to go there, so I want to talk about Roger Fitzpatrick. Roger Fitzpatrick received approximately 16% of the vote, and recently a poll showed about still 18% undecided. So Roger Fitzpatrick did not endorse any candidates, is what he told me. He made no endorsement of candidates, and his comment to me was that he would encourage his supporters to go vote for the person that would most protect the Constitution and would be a strong constitutionalist. So I want to ask you both the same question, and I'll start with you, Ms. Zoller. What does the Constitution mean to you?
Look, the Constitution is the most important document out there. I mean, next to the Bible, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, along with the Federalist Papers, are the most important documents, and they've stood up longer for the test of time than anything else. I'm a strict constitutionalist. You know, Roger did an amazing thing. He had a very shoestring budget, and he was able to get a big number of votes from these areas. And I do encourage his voters to get out and vote. But I have been verbal on these issues. I have fought for these issues. I have looked at these issues for a long period of time. And I believe that the number one most important thing for us to do is to limit the size and scope of government and get back to the Constitution.
Okay, Mr. Collins?
Well, again, I think it was Roger's contribution to the campaign as a whole was a wonderful opportunity to talk about different issues, and also in his emphasis on the Constitution. And the question you said was, what does the Constitution mean to me? It is the founding document. It is the document that our Supreme Court needs to rule. It is the document that they need to look to. And what we're having right now, I believe, is a crisis in America of deciding that we're expanding government beyond that scope. And I think one of the issues that we've got to deal with when you look at the basis of the Constitution, the concern I have in this country right now is you've got a Supreme Court that actually looks to other places. They actually look to other law instead of coming back to the Constitution. The Constitution has to be front and center. When the Constitution is front and center, then we have everything else. I've described government like a fire in a fire ring. A campground is a great place to be when you have the fire inside the fire ring. Right now, the fire is outside the fire ring, and the Constitution is that fire ring that says, here's what our government ought to look like, here's what we need to be, and that's what we're focused on and have to be focused on when you believe what the Constitution believes. And as someone who swore an oath to defend that Constitution, I will fight for it every day in Washington.
Okay, we're coming up on a break, and when we come back, we're going to stay on the Constitution just a little longer, and then we're going to move on from that. Okay, so don't go away, stay with us, and when we get back, we'll talk a little more about the Constitution, and we'll look at several more issues that face the 9th District and these candidates.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and 4-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call, local or long hauls. big or small. Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
We all love Subway.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Okay, we're back, and when we left, we were talking about the Constitution, and we want to follow that up a little more before we move on. Mr. Collins, this question is for you. A couple of weeks ago at the Atlanta Press Club, candidates were allowed to ask each other questions, and I wrote this question down, quote, Mr. Fitzpatrick asked you, and this is a quote, Mr. Collins, you voted in favor of T-SPLOST when it came before you. One of the concerns I have is that the regional commission, which is not elected but appointed, would have control over some of the tax dollars that would be spent. I consider that a violation of the home rule section of the Georgia Constitution. Could you speak on how you voted for something that could quite possibly be unconstitutional? My question, Mr. Collins, is did you validate that as constitutional before voting to put it on the ballot? And is that something the voters should be concerned when you go to Washington, that you would look at the Constitution before putting something up?
No, I do not believe that it was a concern. I believe it was constitutional to put on the ballot under Georgia Home Rule. One of the issues is that the General Assembly can work with taxation in these issues and actually overcome that. I believe that is a decision the courts will ultimately make if they're deciding on it. What I did was put the issue on the ballot for the people to look at their infrastructure needs, and that's what they did. I voted no for that because it was a two-part process after the list came out. I voted no. I've been consistent in saying that all along, and that's where the voters of Georgia have clearly spoken, and they're going to, and I think when we go back in, the Speaker Ralston and others have already talked about making the adjustments needed in the legislation. So I think at this point, I think what I did was put it on the ballot to let people have their say. Georgians have loudly spoken along with me and voted no.
Just to make sure I'm clear on your record, you voted yes to put it on the ballot, but you did vote no when the list came up.
That is correct.
Okay. Ms. Zoller, would you like to comment on that?
Well, I mean, Doug says that he after the list came out, he then said he was going to vote no. It was a long time after the list came out that he said he was going to vote no. It was after he had been through a number of these forums and had gotten such straight pushback on this that he said that he was going to vote no. But one of the biggest challenges I have with T-SPLOST is that, you know, initially it seemed like something that was a lot like the fair tax. And I have generally been a strong supporter of SPLOST initiatives. But then once the toll came down from Georgia 400, which was a violation of that law, there was a huge distrust as far as T-SPLOST is concerned. So I decided after that that I was not going to support it. That was in September of 2010. So there are a lot of challenges out there regarding T-SPLOST, and Doug knew all along that these penalties that local governments are concerned about they're going to have to pay these penalties. So it's a challenge. You know, I don't understand how people weren't shouting from the rooftops that especially we're on the inside about these penalties, but it is something that needs to be addressed.
Would you like to respond?
I think the interesting thing is that Martha has not only said, you know, in 2010, but also in 2011, she thought T-SPLOST was a good idea. And as we move forward in this, I think that's the issue that we move forward with. We both voted no, and T-SPLOST was soundly defeated by the voters. I think it's just about being consistent. I'll put it on the ballot, and that's what we did.
Okay. Can we move on? Or?
Of course.
Okay. Ms. Zoller, the Collins campaign seems to me, because I get the emails and I get the mailers, so they seem to be moving to the forefront of this election, the abortion issue, and that you're not a solid pro-life candidate, and the civil unions. Could you address that and why you think they continue to bring that to the forefront?
Well, I mean, clearly this is a desperate campaign that's losing. I mean, that's why they're not talking about what they're going to do. When you look at their Facebook page, you would think that I'm running on their Facebook page and not them. He doesn't talk about what he wants to do. I do that in the Map for Prosperity. But I have been endorsed by Georgia Right to Life. They have reaffirmed that endorsement a number of times. I have been endorsed by Susan B. Anthony List. I am pro-life. As far as civil unions are concerned, I do not support civil unions. I do support a federal marriage amendment. I've been endorsed by Rick Santorum. We had a long discussion about it. He's satisfied. I've been endorsed by Sarah Palin. Those people do not endorse liberals. I am not a liberal. I am pro-life, and I am pro-family.
Mr. Collins.
I think what's very interesting on these two issues is that Martha has to bring in endorsements to validate her opinions. And I think that's the difference in this race. There's a consistency about these two issues. Martha beforehand said that I support, and even during this campaign season in our forums, have said I want to keep abortion legal, and she uses the life of the mother as the reason she wants to keep it legal. That's not Georgia Right to Life stance. In fact, Dan Becker and I've had a conversation about that, who is the head of Georgia Right to Life. We've got to look at it from the perspective of having to bring in endorsements to validate an opinion. Civil unions, she just said again she didn't believe in them. However, not only in a CNN interview, but also in an article later, she said, I do support civil unions. She believes it was a legal issue. The reason we bring this up is there's a consistent conservative message that we have brought forward, and it's a record that we have that we are proud to run on, that we've run on for the entire time. And that's why we bring it up, because there is an inconsistency of being a radio talk show host and now a congressional candidate.
Well, I think there's an inconsistency. When Doug knew about the T-SPLOST penalties that are going to cost local governments 300%, he had 50 opportunities at least to explain it to the voters, but because he was a candidate and he didn't want to take a chance, he didn't do it. Bottom line is, you know, I am a person that is pro-life, and I support traditional marriage. Okay, there is one clip that he put out that was particularly onerous because he said I'm a different, he cut out 11 seconds, I'm a different kind of pro-life person. The rest of that cut was, we can't just change this with legislation, we have to change hearts and minds. You know, he took it completely out of context. That's what he has done throughout this campaign, because I have a plan. I have told people what I'm going to do and how I can be accountable. He still hasn't told people what he's going to do. So he talks about being consistent, but I think there's a different view. He can have his own opinion. He can't have his own facts.
All right.
I think on this, if I was Martha, I would want to change the subject too.
But wait a minute.
I'm not changing the subject. I'm talking about issues.
No. Okay, I'm going to give you a chance. You did change the subject, so I'll give you a chance to respond to that. But I want to stay on as a voter. Okay, I'm a voter. In my mailbox, I got something today that said about abortion, and it made reference at about 9 o'clock this morning on your email, mass emails I received, something about civil unions. So I want to stay on that just a minute, okay? Let me just bring this up. In April, both of you at FetcherNews.com, we went back and forth on this. In April, you and your opponent sent out a series of press releases accusing each other of being pro-choice, questioning the authenticity of the Georgia Right to Life endorsement. In May, Georgia Right to Life issued statements validating both your endorsements, both of you. However, even after these statements, you continue to insist that your opponent is not pro-life. Last week, your opponent cited at a statement from Georgia Right to Life in a press release, which read, Georgia Right to Life would like to reaffirm that Martha Zoller is endorsed and certified as a pro-life Georgia Right to Life. This is not easy. This is not an easy endorsement for them. So is your endorsement not as valid, Mr. Collins, as hers? Or they have endorsed her. I got that. So answer that. What makes your endorsement different than hers?
I think what's interesting here is and I have had this conversation with Georgia Right to Life, my endorsement from them is from Georgia Right to Life, is she has claimed endorsement from Georgia Right to Life. I think the big issue here is on this issue of life, mine didn't start when I sat down with the interview with them last October. Mine has been in the two pieces of pro-life legislation that's been in the legislature since I've been there. I've been on the conference committee of both of those. I think the issue here is not a matter where you can sit down and tell Georgia Right to Life what they want to hear. I think it's going back and saying, well, we've had a change of heart, a change of mind. If that's where she wants to be now, that's fine. The problem is I think people have a right to know that this is an election year and people can say what they want to say.
Ms. Zoller.
I've worked with Georgia Right to Life for more than a decade. They know where I am on the issue. They trust me on this issue. Now, on February 2nd, they sent an email out to their supporters saying that Doug was on a bill that was a fake fetal pain bill that was from the Senate side from the last legislative session. And Dan Becker told me that he had suspended Doug's Georgia Right to Life endorsement for a period of time. I got the endorsement in December. Doug had his reaffirmed in February for this congressional race. Look, I think that one of the biggest problems conservatives make is we try to say who's the most pro-life. Both of us are pro-life. Both of us have a record of doing it. Now, I think what's funny is Doug sent this mailer to a targeted pro-life list. I got the mailer at my house because I'm the person that gives money, that volunteers, and has been involved in this issue for more than 10 years.
I'll give you the last 30 seconds on
well,
that.
I think the interesting thing is Martha got it because she votes in the Republican primary, not a targeted pro-life list. And I think she understands that because she sends her own mailers out. Here's the bottom line. Again, you can say what you want to say. What we have in the legislature, and she's fond of saying this, what we've had in the legislature is folks who, when they get the Georgia Right to Life endorsement, they want that endorsement. But when it comes to actual time of voting on real legislation, what we have to do is make sure that they vote on real legislation. What I want to say right now is I believe history matters. She can say what she wants to now. The history is, and if people need to know about it, that's why we have campaigns and that's why there are differences.
Okay, you brought up, and I want to follow that and give Mr. Collins an opportunity, you brought up a 30% penalty on the T-Splosh. Would you like to comment and follow up on that? She changed the subject a minute ago.
That's fine. I'm already working with the Speaker and other leaders in the legislature. That's going to be fixed in the coming legislative session.
Was that in the original form that you put on the ballot?
It was in the bill, yes.
Okay, and you didn't see it at that time?
I've already made a statement there. I saw it, and we knew what the bill was. I put it on the ballot for people to have their say on the issue.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that. You brought up a minute ago an interesting that she brought in all these people endorsements. You have a list of endorsements that from Rick Santorum to Sarah Palin. What do endorsements mean in this campaign to you and to the voters?
Well, the first endorsement I looked after was getting grassroots leaders in every county in this district because for more than a decade, for close to 15 to 16 years, I've been traveling around these counties. I've been at your book clubs and your garden clubs and your church meetings and your GOP meetings. Anytime you've needed me to help raise money for a conservative cause, I have donated my time to be able to do that. So I've been in these counties and I got these endorsements from grassroots people first. And then because for more than a decade, I helped Rick Santorum work on issues when he was a senator. I did not know Sarah Palin. I mean, she did that endorsement just completely off of looking at my record. Newt Gingrich I worked with for more than 15 years. Herman Cain, I gave him his start in radio. But these are people that have known me, have worked with me, and that we have helped with the conservative cause, whether it's the fair tax, whether it's life issues, whether it is budget issues. I was marching with them. I was side by side with them in the conservative movement, and I am proud to have those endorsements. But the most important endorsement to me is your vote, either today on early voting throughout the end of the week or on August 21st.
Would you like to respond or talk about your endorsements, sir?
Well, I think it's twofold. We'll respond and talk about endorsements as well. I've been endorsed by National Rifle Association. I've also been endorsed by, as we've already talked about, Georgia Right to Life and others. But I think the big difference in this campaign is the endorsements that I have actually can vote for me. And I think that's a big difference when we look at these races. I believe Northeast Georgia values are important, and I believe those that I've served with in the legislature, those that I've helped and coach and work with, have been the parts that have come along and endorsed us because they actually see my record. They see those things that matter. Zell Miller, other folks in this campaign have come on board because they care about Northeast Georgia. They're voting in early voting right now, and they're voting on the 21st, and that's what matters. And what we get in when we bring in from others and outside groups, I think it's just an indication of support within the district. And that's the other thing that we're supporting. We're looking at our endorsements is saying we are the 9th District. We are the reflection of what matters in Northeast Georgia. And that's what we believe endorsements mean to us.
Well, and basically, too, though, when you look at endorsements, the most important thing is getting out and doing the work, and that's what we've been doing. But if you really want to look at this, if this is a football game and we're in overtime, we're at 0-0, because basically Doug and I were even. He was 700 votes ahead of me, roughly about that. So we were even coming out of this. So I think that while endorsements are important to have, the more important thing is to get out and do the groundwork.
All right, we got to go to break. We do have to go to break. I will give you a chance to respond, Mr. Collins, when we come back, but I want to switch directions. When we come back, I want to talk about where this campaign has gone and some of the websites out there that have been launched and some things that's been said. So stay with us and we'll be right back.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and 4-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
For a delicious, fresh meal anytime, visit your local Subway today. Subway offers daily specials, $5 footlongs, and now featuring the Angus beef melts, where each sandwich is created by you with our own fresh baked bread and a huge variety of veggies and cheese. Real food, great food, anytime, your local Subway.
Hi, I'm Ed Singleton. I own 15 Subway stores in Georgia and North Carolina since 1991. I'd like to ask everyone to exercise your right to vote.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Takeaway, and I think, and Martha brought up the actual end of our results and being back at it, I think that was one of the things that for us it focused on is those endorsements for ours who went out and told their friends, and that's why we did come in where we did on July 31st. And I think it's the very thing that's going to push us over in the next week in this election.
That's one thing I'd agree with. It's what's going to push me over.
Okay, that being said, let's move on. Mr. Collins, you've launched a website. See what Martha says. It actually says it says she's zany and crazy. You've launched a website saying Collins lies. So that's where the campaign is, and I didn't make that up.
Right.
I've been on your websites. So I'm going to go into your website, Mr. Collins, and I looked at something today, and you discuss, you put a clip up of her concerning earmarks. So I want to talk to you about earmarks. Mrs. Zoller, concerning earmarks, you said on your talk radio show is, my issue is I want to get them out in the daylight. I want to debate them. I use the Savannah Port as an example. That is something that is not only going to help Georgia economically, it's going to help the whole eastern seaboard. Do you support asking the federal government for $400 million for that project, and do you consider it pork?
Well, and I'll tell you, I do not consider it pork, and I'll tell you why. It is about interstate trade, and it's about interstate commerce and using the interstate waterways, really. And anytime you do multi-state, that brings the federal government involved. It is constitutional, I believe, in that for that reason. But I do believe that you have to have sunlight. You have to have it out there. You have to debate it. I believe, and I know that Doug and I differ on this. You know, he thinks, I think, and I don't want to misstate your position, but it should be part of the transportation bill. I think it should be brought out separately and voted on separately so that people can see where people stand about it. it. I want to see smaller, more compact, more germane bills rather than these big, monolith type bills. Okay, so that's where I am on that. So no, I don't think it's an earmark. I do think that we should debate it out in the open, and I do believe it's constitutional.
But would you support the federal government giving us the $400 million for the project?
As long as we can pay for it.
As long as we pay. Mr. Collins, that is on your website, and that is in an area that you talk about her with earmarks. So that clip that you have on your website, would you like to comment on that?
Well, I think that what we deal with earmarks is the fact, and what Martha said, in the environment in Washington right now, what is considered earmark is when they come standalone, when they begin to be parts that come into the congressional process. What we've got to look at right now is looking at the way it went through Ray LaHood, through the Transportation Administration to bring that money forward. That's the issue we've got to deal with in Washington, and it is a constitutional concern of the federal government. That's why I believe the Savannah Port project is a valid project, and why we supported it on the state level already. That's the concern as far as earmarks, and that's just a distinction that we've made.
May I make one more comment?
Yes.
I think when most people hear the term earmarks, and I could be wrong about that, and I'd love for people to go to marthaforcongress.com and tell me if you think I'm wrong about that. I think that what they mainly think about is when we go to these conference committees, which we haven't done in a long time regarding budgets, but when it gets from the House to the Senate and back around, they do this Christmas tree stuff where they just start throwing everything in and there's no debate about it in order to make the deal. I think that's where most people really believe earmarks are, but the most important thing in whether we call it earmarks or not, it's whether it's out in the sunlight, in the daylight, where people can debate it.
Mr. Collins, you did have that marked on this website that under earmarks, and it was talking about the Savannah Port project. And at the Atlanta Press Club debate a couple of weeks ago, you did say, I believe we definitely need to move forward with the project. What I believe is the dominant theme in all the elections is jobs. So do you still think this is pork like on the website, or do you think, what do you think about Martha?
No, I think, Brian, the issue is not the issue of the Savannah Port, because I believe it went through the process of getting the administration. What the process was, in a few other debates that we've had, and where this came from, was the fact of bringing these out and taking them and voting on them separately. Right now, the understanding of earmarks in Washington is taking these out and voting on them is what's considered special projects. I've talked to several congressional leaders about that, and that is what they considered earmarks. So when you take the ban of earmarks, that is where we're not going to get this project. I believe this is a federal project that should be included in the transportation request, the administration's request because I do believe it's jobs. I think that's the distinction that we're drawing here. It's not something to bring out as a special. It's something that should go through the proper budgetary process and the administration to have that part in it.
30 seconds, we're going to move on. I
think it's pretty difficult to see what the proper budgetary process is right now, and we haven't passed a budget in 3.5 years, and I would like to see more of that. But look, bottom line is this is going to be the decade for South Georgia. I mean, North Georgia is still going to do great, but once the Savannah Port project gets in place, you're going to see Georgia explode economically, and I think we need to be prepared for that.
Okay, let's move on. Mrs. Oler, at that same debate, this question came to you, and I want to read your answer, and then I have a question. You were asked in the debate about the divisiveness in Congress, and if you would work across party lines. You responded, quote, I'm going to work across party lines. You take Obamacare. There were 4 or 5 things, whether it was pre-existing conditions, tort reform, that could have been put together in a package that could have gotten between 60 and 70% support. Yes, I'm going to work across party lines. My question is, how will you work across party lines without sacrificing conservative principles?
Well, I think you work on the things you can agree with. I mean, I think Paul Ryan said it the best the other day when he was talking right after his pick to be the VP pick. He said, as long as we're going to talk about cutting spending and making taxes lower, we can work across party lines. And in fact, he was able to do that. He got a Democratic senator to partner along with him on his budget, and he has lots of Democrats talking about the good things he does. So if you have good ideas and you're willing to talk to people, you can work across lines on things. Here's the example. 30 jobs bills have been passed in the House of Representatives with a vote of 350 to 400 votes. That's a bipartisan group of bills. They just can't get through the Senate. So there are people up there willing to work across the aisle, and I know how to do it because I've done it throughout my lifetime.
Mr. Collins, will you work across the aisle, and can you explain that?
Well, I think it's very simple. You have your principles, and you move forward on those principles, and you find others of like mind. Yes, I can, because I've already done it. And we've worked across this in Georgia, and one of the issues that we did was saving the Hope Scholarship Program. When Governor Deal came in, He made a commitment. He said, we're not going to continue to let this go bankrupt because it was bleeding money at the time. So we began to put that together and began to look at what can be fixed because it's a multi-pronged approach on different programs. When the first message, we began to bring others in from the Democrat Party and said, hey, look, it's going bankrupt. We've got to fix this. Are you wanting to be a part of it? And after we were able to look and say, we've got to fix it, make it viable for long term, then the minority leader of the House actually signed onto the bill, which made it the passage through the House very bipartisan. That's working together, not bending on what you believe, and being able to move forward. That can be done in Washington because right now the bottom line is Washington is broke, spending is out of control, and we've got to get that under a wrap where our kids and my grandkids can deal with that. That's the way we got to work with this. And yes, you can work across because I believe that is a rising tide in America of being able to deal with our debt problem.
You need to respond or
No,
we'll move on?
Good.
Okay. Mr. Collins. My question is, the last time, and the Republicans are very hopeful this time that they will come away in November election with the House, Senate, and the Oval Office. That being said, the last time the Republicans had both houses and the presidency, the last thing you would be able to call them were fiscal conservatives. Would you, my question is, are you prepared to go for the 9th District voters and stand up? And I will use the current Speaker of the House, John Boehner, stand up where John Boehner is going down a spending bill that he shouldn't go. Will you stand up and vote no or speak out? And can you give an example currently in the House here in Georgia where you've done that with the current Speaker of the House in Georgia?
Yes, I think in what we've got to look at here is you look forward is when leadership's right, they'll have Doug Collins vote. When leadership's wrong, they won't. I think I have a consistency of record here in the State House on that and dealing with not only before this current Speaker, when I took on the Speaker previous, when he was wanting to control things that he really was not in his purview to control. He said he was going to do it simply by his power. We stood up. We got punished for that. Afterwards, we changed speakers. This year, as a matter of fact, just in the legislature, I was governor's floor leader and have been for the last 2 years. And there were two bills in particular. The one that I voted for that he actually vetoed, which is the Accountability Act, where you looked at different committees and different assignments, seeing if they needed to be even kept around. We did pass zero-based budgeting, which I think will hopefully take care of that. But then there was another military bill dealing with education, which I felt was wrong for Georgia. It was a bill that they had wanted. I voted against that. When it comes to spending, I already have a proven record. We're 9% dollar for dollar less in the state of Georgia right now than we were 10 years ago. Adjusted for inflation, that's 30%. I already have a record of standing up and telling the people this is what we have to do and standing up against leadership. When they're right, I'll vote yes. When they're wrong, I'll vote no.
Ms. Zoller.
You know, it's interesting, and I'm glad that we're spending less than we were 10 years ago because we threw the Democrats out 10 years ago because they were overspending. And in fact, the Republicans continued to spend like drunken sailors in the Georgia State House until the economy collapsed, okay? And they were forced to balance the budget. I think that what's important about what we have to do and why you should elect me to go to Congress in this regard is because we, for the first time in a very long time, are sending people that are a lot more reflective of America. Not just trial lawyers, not just people that have been in state legislators, but people that are in small business people, doctors, other people that have been involved in business like I have, big business and small business and raising a family and building a media career out of a small media market and rising to being one of the top 100 talk shows in America. That was not an easy thing to do, and I had to work with people to be able to do that. But we have a unique opportunity in Congress because we've got a lot more different types of people coming up there, bringing different experiences. It's what the founders intended, it's constitutional, and it's what we have to do to move things forward.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think what's amazing here is especially in the last few months, is Martha's continuation of throwing this governor and the state legislature under the bus and saying that what we've done has not been a part, and over the past few years throwing legislators on the bus, in which we've actually improved not only the tax situation in Georgia, but our spending situation, and made Georgia what I believe better for as we come out of the recession. When we look at this, I think what we've got to do is we do have to move forward. We've got to look at this. And I think what's interesting is when you want to throw around professional politician, when you want to throw around trial lawyer, you know, from somebody who went to law school at age 38 in life, who has represented, you know, people who represent their constitutional rights as a constitutionalist, believing that they have somebody to stand up for them or work with them through a divorce, or dealing with the time in which we, from a background of being a chaplain in the military, serving in Iraq, I think that's the kind of thing that we move forward. But for a professional politician, I want to bring up something. For the last 16 years, while I was pastoring a church, Martha was talking about politics. While I was serving in the military and going to Iraq, she was talking about politics. When I went back to law school, she was talking about politics. When I was serving as a citizen legislator, she was talking about politics. There's a professional politician at this table. It's Martha Zoller.
All right, 30 seconds. I got to go to commercial. 30 seconds.
I tell you what, here's what's interesting about that. I didn't throw this governor under the bus. I threw the last governor under the bus because what Governor Deal has done has actually been responsible as far as cutting spending. Okay, all the problems I talk about with Doug Collins and his record happened in 2010, which was before Governor Deal took office. But as far as saying I'm just talk and not giving respect to the fact I took on a husband and 3 children and raised them as my own. Okay, I went through and built a business in the corporate world where I managed $10 million a year of other people's money and 60 employees. I also have run my husband's medical practice. I think that it really shows the disrespect for my experience. I haven't just talked, but he can't make his mind up whether I'm just talk or I have a record. First he wants to say I'm just talk, then he wants to say, oh, but I have a record. I have a lot of a record. I've talked about issues, but I also have worked in the corporate world. I've raised a family, and I have worked in small business.
We have to go to break. We have to go to break, Mr. Collins. When we come back, we'll be in our final segment. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and 4-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
we all love Subway.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Okay, we're back, and this is our last segment with 9th Congressional candidates Martha Zoller and Doug Collins. When we left, I've got a couple things, and we got this last segment, so we're going to move through some things quickly. 30 seconds, if you can answer this, Ms. Zoller, in 30 seconds. After the recent shooting in the movie theater in Colorado, is it not time to start talking about gun control, or should that be brought back up?
No, and I have the AQ rating for the National Rifle Association, which is the highest rating you can get if you have not been an elected official. And it's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. And I can answer that in 30 seconds. No, it's not more gun control is the answer. It is prosecuting people appropriately that commit the crimes.
Mr. Collins?
No, it's definitely not the time. In fact, my only hope at that point, especially in those theaters and those other shootings, was been that someone had actually had a gun there to have stopped the shooter at the minute in time. I think what we've got to do is expand, as one endorsed by the National Rifle Association. This is not the time. This is not the issue. Guns are not the problem. We have people who do stupid things and crazy things, and that's what we have to focus on.
Mr. Collins, 30 seconds again. Recently, we've seen what took place in Wisconsin with the governor recall election. What part do you think the Tea Party is playing in national and local elections?
I think they're making a great statement as far as conservative values and getting people involved. And the one thing I have seen in the meetings that I've gone to and the support that we've gathered from Tea Party groups is basically the understanding that people need to be involved in their government. They need to get out and be involved in what's going on and be informed about what's going on. And I think that's the great part that has been provided from that conservative movement.
As a person that's been involved in the Tea Party movement from the beginning, from the very beginning, from very small groups to being able to speak in front of several 100,000 people on the steps of the Capitol, it's an important part of what's happening in America. I sort of relate it in a way to the Blue Dogs of 30 years ago. They're going to be the go-to group to be able to get things done in Congress, the Tea Party caucus, and I think it's exciting. I mean, their values are a little bit different, but I think it's that we have missed that in the last 25 or 30 years because of the polarization. I think it's going to help things, and I'm proud to have the support of many, many Tea Party groups.
Okay, that being said, and if one of you want to respond on something, please don't hesitate to stop me, but I appreciate you letting us move on. Ms. Zoller, your campaign often refers to Mr. Collins as Gold Dome Doug. Explain to me why you refer to him as that.
Well, it's a loving term, actually, because right after his last legislative session last year, he sent out a flyer about his legislative accomplishments, and he called himself the Gold Dome Insider. And so we just kind of attached. It's Gold Dome Doug. It's not anything nasty. It's just something. It's alliteration, is what it is.
Okay.
Well, that was a form newsletter that many legislators lived. In fact, it was actually Martha's own consultant that had referred us to where these newsletters get made. I think the interesting part about this is, though, is throughout this campaign, it's not about, when I've spoken to Martha, we differ on many issues. I've spoken with my opponent or Martha. But yet, when we put out something, then from her campaign, I become Gold Dome Doug, I become pathetic, I become a coward, I become perverse. I tell you right now, I take great offense if someone who has actually, served this country, who has done the thing, and actually on myself, I've actually have 3 kids as well. It may get overlooked, but I've actually been a part of their lives in their entire life. It is sort of offensive when you look at it from that perspective to say, look, this is what we said it. Martha says this, my opponent says this. We're not used to cheap gimmicks and cheap tactics. That's not what the people of 9th District deserves.
You want to respond,
I think that's funny because just today you used the cheap tactic of sending my cell phone number out, which is fine. I didn't get one phone call, by the way. I think y'all have done your fair share of the cheap tactics, Doug, okay? And I think the best thing is your consultant, you're going to bring up mine, your consultant has taken our research and used it in another race. About 24 hours later, we see our research in his other race. So I take that as the highest form of flattery.
I think the great thing is because nobody called her because they understand that's her position on civil unions. So so there's no need to call it. They understand that this is a position she had before she took and before she was on and before she became a candidate.
That discussion was always about how it related to the fair tax, and the fair tax, I believe, gets the government out of people's personal life. But you know what? I will stand by my record, and I think the people of Georgia are going to know that.
15 seconds. I'm moving on. You got something else, or you move on? Okay. Ms. Zoller, let me ask you a quick question here, and it doesn't have to be 30 seconds. The state of Georgia has had what some would say has done pretty well with state legislators moving on to the House of Representatives here in the state of Georgia. There's several, to name a few. To not name any, there's several. Why is this gentleman not able to follow suit? Why should you stop that now?
Well, this is not about me stopping Doug from going to Congress. This is about me thinking I'm the best person for this job because of my unique set of experiences. There's a number of people also in our legislative delegation that had no experience, like Congressman Paul Brown, that didn't have elected office experience before. I just differ with Doug that legislative experience is the most important kind of experience. I think that's what's gotten us into this mess. It's not anything personal. It's about what is best for Georgia. And I believe that I'm going to bring to North Georgia the set of skills that's going to move this country forward. It's not about whether he's got the right ones or the wrong ones.
Okay, go ahead.
I think for me it's a culmination of life experiences, not only being in business, running my own business, making a payroll every 2 weeks, but also being in the military, serving our country overseas, and then also having that experience in the legislature. We talk about people can look at the record and understand where we are as a state. And right now as a state, we're in great position to come out of this recession and pick up jobs and to increase that. And that's the kind of things that I'd worked on. Legislative experience is part of a culmination of package that I presented to the people to say this is who Doug Collins is.
And my business experience is part of a culmination of a package that is not just talk.
Okay, real quick. This district has been represented by Tom Graves, which has moved to the new 14. That being said, when I first met both of you and several other candidates, it seemed like everybody was saying, who's the real Tom Graves, trying to emulate Tom Graves in this campaign. Quickly, I was looking at something. Did you donate to Tom Graves' opponent when he was running? Because you have made claims of being a close friend with him. Did you donate to an opponent's campaign?
I am a close friend of Tom Graves. We worked together in the legislature. In fact, when I talked about earlier being punished together, we did. Lee Hawkins is also a friend, and Lee running this campaign as well. Lee lives in the same neighborhood, and yes, it's public record that I did give Lee that money, but also in that same time, it also been friends with Tom Graves. That's the unique advantage of having both as a friend, and yes, that was a public record as far as the donation.
15 seconds, because we got to
Well, he not only gave money, but he also allowed his name and his wife's name to be used in a mailer for Lee Hawkins to get out the vote.
Okay, that being said, we now 15 seconds, Mr. Collins.
Well, I think in that issue, and bringing that, I think it's also an issue that I've had since Martha brought that up on me. I've had many from the Hawkins camp and from the family there that brought back and said that was a surprise to us because Martha had assured us she was with Lee.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting.
Okay. I don't have time for any more response on that. We've got to close. Martha, 1 minute to close, please.
Well, I wanted to say that I have been your firebrand conservative in Northeast Georgia, and like Paul Ryan, I have a plan. But that's not the only difference that we have between me and Doug Collins, because Doug doesn't have a plan. He isn't telling people what he's going to do if he gets elected to Congress. I have the map for prosperity that's about accountability, bold reform, and citizen engagement. Those are the things we're going to be talking about, and you can go to marthaforcongress.com for more. But there are a lot of things that are different about us. I'm for term limits, Doug is not. I will not vote for tax increases. Doug has voted for the hospital bed tax. He has voted for the T-SPLOST, and he didn't explain to the people when he had the opportunity what was really in store for them. But I got to tell you, this election is going to be important, and you're going to get out and vote. We hope that you will vote early for us, but also we want you to get out on Election Day. And please take someone with you to vote. God bless you, and God bless this Northeast Georgia.
Mr. Collins, 1 minute to close, please.
As we go forward in this election, I'm asking for your vote. Right now, for those who have already started early voting, those who will start early voting, I'm asking for you to go out and vote or be present next Tuesday as this election is decided, because this election is about a different vision, a different purpose, and a different life. It's been said that I don't have a plan. Well, you can look and see exactly what my plan is. It's the same thing we've done in Georgia, and that is cut taxes in Georgia twice since I've been in the legislature. We've cut regulation. I've actually authored legislation that actually cut a Department of State government, which almost every Republican that you would ever talk to or conservative says what we need to do is shrink the size of government. But it's also about being consistent. And in this race, and we've talked about it tonight, and we went back and forth, but I believe it's a consistency on life, it's a consistency on civil unions, it's a consistency on not believing that taxes are too high, but in actuality the taxes need to be cut. We have a decision to make, and I'm asking for your vote on the 21st or in early voting, because this election does matter. It's about where our country's headed, and it's about the future of our kids, it's about the future of our grandkids, because we've got to turn around now, and it's time that we look forward to someone with a record to do that.
Candidates, I want to thank both of you for being here tonight, and I want to wish both of you well. And I want to extend an apology. I've gotten to know both of you so well, and I've enjoyed it so much that a couple times I slipped and used your first name, so please forgive me for that, because we've gotten to know each other. And again, I appreciate it, and thank you for coming. Again, thank you for being with us tonight during these series of debates. And don't forget, next Tuesday, go vote. The early voting has started, but next Tuesday, August 21st, go vote. Don't complain, go vote. Be a part of the American process. Go vote. And I want to thank you again from FetcherNews.com, ETC3, and I want to thank all the staff at ETC. They've done a great job. And again, go vote next week. Do your part. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Since 1962, Gilmer Towing has been serving the North Georgia area and would like to say thanks to all of our customers. For over 48 years, Gilmer Towing has carried on a family tradition with an experienced and friendly staff that offers 24-hour damage-free towing, unlocks, and four-wheel drive recovery. So when you're stuck in a ditch, tires flat, or car won't start, give us a call. Local or long hauls, big or small, Gilmer Towing will get them all. Give us a call today at 706-636-4TOW.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
we all love Subway.
Ace Hardware in Ellijay has a reputation for carrying only the highest quality products at prices that are affordable for you, our customer. That reputation is one we work hard to uphold. That's why our furniture and appliance department is stocked with only the best. So whether you're looking to build a new home or just give your home a new look, visit us at Ace Hardware in Ellijay and choose from our name brand products to achieve the look and quality you deserve. Remember, Ellijay's Ace Hardware is the place.
If money talks, who's speaking up for you? Bill Holt Chevrolet. That's who. If you're a stand-up kind of person who tries to do right, maybe had a few setbacks, we'll talk about how you can afford real easy terms on one of our 400-plus vehicles. Then drive off in the prettiest car with new credit that keeps getting better and better. You may not have money that talks, but you've got friends who listen. The Bill Holt Chevrolet family in Canton.
Went on to play college ball. And of course we have to bear in mind that in the early days of his coaching career, few if any women's